So thanks again, everyone, for being present. We're going to discuss drone surveying today um, and how it can be used in earth moving. And Trimble Stratus is a nice tool that can help you with that. So joining us today, my name is Jan Wouter Kruid. That's a Dutch name. Don't try to pronounce it. You can go with Jan. I work for a company called Propeller Arrow. That's the company that builds and supports Trimble Stratus. I'm joined here today by Carl Parsons at Cytec UK in Ireland. Hi, Carl.
Hi there. Yeah, Carl Parsons. I'm the regional sales manager for Cytec, the dealer in the UK for Trimble and Stratus products.
All right. And Robert Mercer over at Kelston Sparkes. Hey, Rob.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so it's Robert Mercer from Kelston Sparkes. I'm an engineer and I look after all of our GPS equipment, all our machine control at Kelston Sparkes.
All right, great to have you. Just a quick poll for our audience here so we have a bit more understanding of who's who. I'll start a poll right here, and you're all very welcome to fill that out. Everyone should be able to see this now. So what's the maturity of your drone program? Feel free to fill that out. No program yet, early stage still, or you have a fairly mature drone program today. All right, it looks like the majority of the people here don't have a program yet. That's great. We help a lot of folks get started, a few with an early program and a few with a mature program. So we have a bit of a mixed audience, but most people still starting out, which makes a ton of sense because that's what the what this webinar is targeted at. So just sharing those results there. And heading back to our presentation here. So just a quick intro from Propeller as a company. So as I said, Propeller is a company that builds and supports Trimble Stratus. We've built a lot of experience processing drone surveys for our customers. We did over 80,000 of them, so we know a thing or two about it across over 20,000 work sites in many countries. A lot of people use us for their drone surveying purposes. We partner with Trimble and also with DJI, big drone manufacturer, and we have a global presence. Propeller is a fairly small company, 160 staff, based out of the Netherlands in Europe, and we have 24/7 live customer support. And we work with Cytec, so Trimble authorized dealers across the world. And handing off to Carl here.
Yeah, so Cytec, we are the UK dealer for Trimble products, and this currently includes the Propeller offering. So we mainly cover anything from machine control, survey equipment, and again onto the drones and software processing.
All right, Rob, you want to intro Kelston Sparkes?
Okay, yeah, so Kelston Sparkes, the business is primarily split into two sections. The quarrying side and then the construction side, which is what I work on, which is where we use the machine control and the drone for doing a lot of our surveying.
All right, let's ask the audience a bit more. First, what's the maturity of your drone program? Let me go to that. To that next question. Give me a minute here. I think we answered that one before. So let's run with the next question. Polling number 3. What expectations do you have of a drone program? You should be able to see this now and go right ahead and fill that one out. This is a multiple choice one, so feel free to click as many as are applicable for your situation. All right. Let me share those results with you. So the expectations are well, across the board, people expect to do their volumes and progress. And a lot of people want to measure productivity. That's great to see. With the majority of folks actually looking to improve safety by staying out of the way. That is one big advantage of drone surveys, especially as it comes to earthworks, where the sites have the big machines roaring about. So thanks for that. Let's move to Rob here and hear a bit. Rob, can you tell a bit what your experience was with drones prior to using Trimble Stratus?
Okay, so prior to the company investing in Trimble Stratus and purchasing, the drone, we were using a subcontractor to do our drone surveys, and we decided that we would bring that in-house, so it gave us more flexibility, so we could put the drone up when we wanted to and use it more often to capture more information, to make sure we weren't missing anything. And obviously by using a subcontractor, that wasn't always possible. You couldn't always get them booked in. So yeah, moving to Stratus has been the right thing to do.
That makes sense. How often do you fly now?
Sorry, beg your pardon?
How often do you fly now, do you think?
Obviously in the UK it varies with the weather conditions, but it's at least once a week, and sometimes it'll be more than that depending on what stages each of our sites are at and what we need to capture. So there's a number of factors that affect that.
So Robbie, if I can just step in there, what was it that made you start using a drone just right at the start with the subcontractor?
It was the fact that we'd had internal discussions before that about getting a drone ourselves, because it was a new technology that was in the marketplace, and we could see the benefit of it on a lot of our larger sites, and particularly in the quarry side that we get involved in. That was being able to, how are we going to capture that data, how are we going to do it efficiently, how are we going to do it safely, and the drone surveys ticked all those boxes. So it was the natural thing to go out and try first with a subcontractor to see how we got on with the data and the quality of the information we were getting back, and then, like I said, the decision was made to bring it in-house.
So I think for you guys, collecting data is a big part of your business. It's
yes.
Not, so from using the machines to record as-built data, adding that to the drone data, so that's where you've turned the corner. It's about not just sending data to the machines, it's about getting that data back, and the drone survey all comes in just to collect as much data as you can from the job site.
Yeah, it's having it all sort of linked together from the designs being done in Business Centre, sending those to the machine remotely. Like you said, the machines are recording information. We're then getting that back and into Works OS, and then also with the drone as well. It sort of gives the integrated site together.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
another tool in our box to use.
Yeah, and this product itself was such an easy product to put into the business. There's no complication to it.
No, not at all. No, it was with some advice from yourself. It was about what is the best drone and most suitable drone to buy for what we want to do with it, and then being introduced to Trimble Stratus, the whole process inside, because that was one thing when we were looking at it initially, was because I come from a survey and mapping background, and I know the sort of processing power you need to manipulate these data sets. So that was one thing we were thinking about. And then when, you know, Stratus came out, it was obvious that was the best solution, because, you know, we just upload everything and it's back within the 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Good good to hear that. And it's really similar, Rob, to what we hear from other customers. I think many folks in the industry are affected by the same things, right? There's a huge opportunity to increase productivity across construction industry, and one of the things that many people struggle with is poor communication, or just hard to align the team. Projects take longer than planned, go over budget, and one of the things that survey managers struggle with is that they don't have enough time in their day to keep track of progress, and make sure that the project teams have all the information they need. So with too little time in the day, less surveys than desirable happen, and we see that across the board, as you just described as well. Then your quantities get outdated. You run into rework, and you lose money, and that's a bad thing when your margins are slim as they are across earthworks. So we see drones come in there alongside traditional methods. Really, it doesn't mean that the total stations and the GPS rovers are out the door, but the drones are just another good tool to have in the belt, to have in the toolbox, and to do your topographic surveys in a less dangerous way. So what do the drones add? Well, within a smaller amount of time, you can cover a larger area. That's basically what drones get you, without having to sacrifice on accuracy, right? So you get the 3 centimeter accuracy that you're familiar with from your RTK GPS. But instead of creating just one point at a time, you create millions of elevation points in a flight that takes well under an hour. You don't only get the height, you also get your orthophoto and your complete site overview. So that is really convenient, nice and rich data. And as a surveyor, you can work on active sites. That should get you the good means to manage your earthwork and your progress, measure productivity, quality of work, have better margins by avoiding rework and staying safe. So as you both already touched on, this is a good piece of technology to have on your site alongside machine control. It really addresses similar issues that machine control tries to address, albeit on a very different side of the technology spectrum, of course. So what do we see happening there? For many of the customers that we work with, this is one of the first steps that they take in terms of digitization. Some folks are far ahead, but many are just getting started. And really where we see them advance is on information, right? How to share information inside the company. So many go from an information gap where they have to travel, they have to call each other, they share files and even paperwork, to really a shared source of truth where everyone has access to up-to-date data. They can really self-serve. So that helps everyone save time in the home office, the work site, and even contractors. So if you have the right permission level set up, everyone can see what they need to see, and know more. So a few things, how Propeller and SciTech help customers with that. There's the software, but before you can work with the software, you need to capture your data with the drone, right? So we have this bundled solution that you see here on the right. That's a Phantom 4 RTK drone, along with an arrow point, which is a self-surveying ground control point. We'll look at that in a bit. And that hardware bundle is really, it's accurate enough for survey crews, but it's easy enough for field crews to be using, right? So it's really trivial. Just a couple tabs on a monitor there, and then hitting the start button is really all you need to know about flying a drone to capture 3 centimeters accurate data. And technology has come so far now that yeah, really anyone can do it. So there's the drone with an RTK antenna. We process the data after the flight, so that's a PPK workflow with an arrow point, a lot of support right at your fingertips to help you get started there. Yeah, so this is that arrow point, and just looking at it in a bit more detail. Propeller built this in 2016, and it's been used across the world, allowing really anyone to do a rover-free, accurate ground control for your drone survey. It literally has one button, so that's the one you push before you start your drone flight. The GPS in the center will start logging, and when you're done with your flight, you hit that button again, and it uploads your GPS data. So that's your ground control done. Really easy way of working. And when you use that RTK drone, you need a minimum number of ground control, right? So one arrow point is going to do it for you. You still need one. Don't let anyone tell you that you can work without ground control and get accurate data over time. If you want to tie in with the real world and achieve an absolute accuracy and 3 centimeters for your progress tracking survey to survey, you'll need some ground control to tie in with the real world. And the arrow point is an easy way to do it. So what does a workflow look like out there in the field? What you do is you place your ground control. That can be an arrow point. It can also be your traditional ground control where you just spray paint an X on the ground and you shoot that with a GPS rover. When you have your ground control in place, you fly your drone. It's pretty simple. It's just an automated flight path that gets executed by the drone. Drone returns, lands, and you get the data off the drone. You upload it to Trimble Stratus. And within 24 hours, you are ready to view your site. It's usually well within 24 hours. You probably think about this as a next day thing. So upload at the end of the afternoon. Next morning, your data is at your fingertips. One important part, probably the most important part there, is that we have a team of GIS specialists in the background, and they look at every single survey, right? So most of that process, getting from the 2D drone images to a 3D terrain model, is automated. But we have a team of experts in the loop that do quality assurance of every single survey. That's crucial to ensure that you achieve that 3 centimeters accuracy. If you let it run without anyone supervising it, chances are you don't achieve that accuracy you need. Right. So the processing, we support different coordinate systems, including local calibrations. So if you are running on locals, maybe you've set that up with the Trimble rover, the JXL file that you create for that, for your local site calibration, goes straight into Stratus. So that's the easiest way to set it up. But yeah, we support over 5,000 published coordinate systems, including the ones in the UK. And as I mentioned, we do QA on every data set. Not only that, you get to speak to the people manning our machinery 24/7. If you have an issue, you can reach out to them on chat in the portal. And during business hours, you can reach out to your local support line over at SiteTech. So yeah, within those 24 hours, the data gets pushed to your portal, and then you can measure all of the people on the site where the survey was created. They get a notification and they can start their measurements and collaborate on the data. It's as easy as that. All right. So back to you, Rob. Some more questions about how you've been using Trimble Stratus. What's the time benefit that you have seen?
Well, for one of our sites, for example, a survey with a rover that would normally take about 8 hours to complete, we're able to put the drone up and from start to finish have it all done in about an hour. So we're finding there's a big, time saving and cost saving there. Plus the nature of the site, there's heavy plant around. It's a lot safer, and you're keeping the people away from the machines.
Yeah, that makes sense. And on a single drone flight, including the upload, so all the way to handing it over, what's the time that you need?
If we were to fly one today, upload it, say this afternoon, the data would be back by the morning, and then we can be working on it. So it's a sort of that whole 24-hour turnaround that we can be using, the process data and getting the information out of it that we require.
Nice. How's the accuracy been for you so far? Is that?
Yeah, we've done some checks. We're finding we are getting the accuracy quoted of 3 centimeters. Sometimes it's a little bit better, and it does depend on what surfaces obviously you're flying over. The sort of on grass and that, you've got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
But the sort of the harder surfaces is a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. Photogrammetry, that's the method used here. Hey, it has its limitations when it comes to moving surfaces like grass waving in the wind or water moving. Hey, those are the challenging bits. Yeah, we're all familiar with those. Yeah, for sure. No, that's great to hear. And so, how have you been using Trimble Stratus? We've looked at how people.
So what we do is we use it, for our original ground survey, and then we do, like I said, the checks with the rovers to check what we're getting is okay, and then we're finding it very useful, and it's a lot safer for measuring stockpiles because you're getting more points on the model, so you're getting a better volume, and particularly if you're being paid to move something, by the cube. So that's good. And then also for monthly measures, on the larger sites, you can just put the drone up, fly it, get your data back. It goes into Propeller, and then you can do your comparisons from the previous month, or we do export some of it out to Trimble Business Centre and manipulate it in there.
That makes sense. Yeah, that sounds familiar, similar to what our other users are doing for sure. Yeah. How's your support experience been? Did you need a lot of support?
Yeah, it's been very, very good from the initial inquiry. I can honestly say, and I'm quite sort of a bit of a perfectionist and quite pedantic, and I can't fault it. We had 3 online live sort of training / help sessions with I can't remember the lady's name now. I think, would it have been Monica? Yeah, Monica from Propeller, and she was brilliant, just pointing us in the right direction, helping us get all the settings right on the drone, saying, well, I can see you've done this. If you do that, you'll get better results. And literally within those three sort of hour sessions, we had it all fine-tuned, and then we're up and running on our own. And then the email support has been good as well. You put a question in, you get a quick response. So I can't fault it.
I think Rob, I'm right in saying that to lead you to the purchase of this product, it was the onboarding process, this helping you go from what do we do with the drone, how do we process it, to getting your data out. That was key for you to have that onboarding process all the way through.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. Because you know what it's like, particularly coming, a salesman will sell you something and then they walk away. And this, obviously, you could see it wasn't going to happen with this. It was like, right, if we buy a drone, how do we get? And like I said, I want this data out of it. I want to be able to use it. I want to be able to get it down into Business Centre, export it as a DWG, so we can send a drawing to our client. And it was actually having that whole step-by-step process demonstrated that, convinced myself, because I was the one doing all the research in it and pushing for it with our directors, you know, for the company to invest in it.
Yeah, I think one of the key things there as well is as soon as that data is available, you've got it, and everybody else that has a hand in this also has that data at the same time.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, you know, anyone within the team that needs access to it is, like you say, got it straight away, and they can start working on it. It's not just down to one person to manage it.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, let's exit this presentation then, hey, and look at the platform itself a bit. I will just jump into the Kelston Sparkes platform right here. Just confirming that we all see this. Rob, can you see your own platform here
I can
right
see
now?
my own little bit of work.
Excellent. Yeah. So this is your site just north of Bristol, hey?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just show everyone around a bit here. So this is Trimble Stratus. It runs in the browser, and if you have the web link, you just put that in your internet browser and you access it. Given you have the right permissions, right? Someone invited you to the site and you are allowed to view it. So in this site, we have two surveys. I just have two areas switched on here. If I scroll back in time here, we can see that before this was just Greenfield. This is on the next survey where it's browned up, and we were able to do some measurements. So let me show you how to take some quick measurements in here. I think this is one of yours, Rob, where you have a cross section. Let's have a quick look at that. So here's a cross section of this part of the site, with in yellow the latest survey, and in green the previous survey. So, well, as you can see here, it's really easy for me. I'm not a trained surveyor. It's really easy for me to just get some information about this cross section and see what has happened on the site. If I want to hit that at a 1-to-1 scale and look at what it looks like for real, I can switch that on as well. Let me just also create a quick measurement here on this stockpile, for example. So creating a measurement is not more difficult than just doing clicks like this, and don't have to be too accurate because we'll get a nice smart base for this stockpile. So with just a few clicks like that, we can see that here's around 1,200 cubes of material. As I said, the base for this measurement is going to be interpolated through the points that I clicked around here, and I can get the cubes out of this pretty quickly. But if I add a material, and I just set up a material in your site here, Rob. So let's assume this is topsoil. Then I also get the mass in tons and a value in pound sterling here. So I just put a pretty random density and a pretty random value in here. But you can see that this is an easy way to get more information that people need on the site. And if I would want to share this, I would just hit share measurement here, and I can copy this link and send it off to one of the folks. If I want to give someone access to the site, I could just hit share here, invite someone, or even set up a team and give them the right level of permissions. And you just edit it like that, right? Viewing or editing or also processing or full admin. All of that stuff is very straightforward. And so anyone, not only the survey team, will have the opportunity to use the data that comes out of these drones. Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to show, and it's probably easier to show that on another site that has a few extra flights here. So I'm going over to an infrastructure project here over in Germany with a few more surveys on this one. As you can see, we don't only show the drone surveys, we also have the design files available in Stratus, and we can use them for measurements as well. So I can also create a cross section right here across this design file, and then also see the design in that cross section, or I can do a earthworks progress measurement. That's what I wanted to show right here. So if I take this outside line of the design, I can actually convert that to a measurement. And now if I want to track my earthworks progress, and then I'll just switch off that design and go to my measurement here, the one that I just created. I can look at a few things real quick. So I compare the March 25 measurement that I'm in right now. I can compare that to the last one. So let's look at the change from March 9 to March 25 and get my cut fill there. So real quickly, just like that, I get my my reds and oranges for cut and my blues for fill. There's been what, 560 cubes cut, 550 cubes filled, so pretty much balanced between those two dates. And anywhere on the site, you can simply hover over and see what's the local value. So this is like placing your GPS rover before and after and just seeing how much was filled or how much was cut between those two surveys in any point. Really easy. Now, if I also, and wherever there's no color, that's the dead band, right? So that's within 10 centimeters above or below. And I'll also want to look at how I'm comparing to the design, right? So let's look at a comparison to the final grade and see how much we have left to do before we hit the final design in this area. So here's some stuff left to fill, 25-ish centimeters. Here's a bit left to cut at the sides of this bench. So that's 1,200 cubes in total and roughly 2,000 cubes to fill. So all of those measurements are really easy to create. Again, no need to be a surveyor, and really getting all of that type of data out. I can show a lot more, but I think for the purpose of this webinar, this is all I'd like to show. So let me go back to our presentation here and call out a few others who've been using Stratus so far over in UK and Ireland. We've seen Willsbros, Roadbridge, Murphy Surveys, Tarmac on the aggregate side, Dynamic Ground Solutions, and Buckingham's. Companies of different sizes and in slightly different parts of the industry, but all running their business by the cubic meter, and so excellent users for drone surveys that are accurate with Trimble Stratus. So with that, I think we've come to the questions. We open the floor here, and anyone in the audience who's taking a question, who wants to put a question to us or to Rob, feel free to share here.
And we've got a couple in already. What's the data deliverables that we get back? So we send our data off for processing. What do we get back?
Yeah, good question. I can answer that one. So you upload JPEG drone images typically, and what you get back is your digital terrain models as DXFs or as Trimble terrain models. That's your GeoTIFF files, and also your LAS or LAZ point clouds, if that's what you're interested in. We have a few others that that you can switch on if you're interested in them, like an OBJ file. But typically the DXF and the GeoTIFF and the LAS is what our customers are looking for.
Another one, so could you please show how does a PDF DWG data produced look like? So kind of the report section on Stratus.
Sure. So there's different different PDFs that we produce, but just to show here on the Kelston Sparkes site, I'll just switch on a couple measurements here and create a measurement report from that. So the report is rendering here. Here's a quick preview of what that will look like as a PDF with the outputs. Yeah, I'm downloading it right now, and it should be up on my screen right here. So yeah, this is what a PDF will look like. It shows your complete site with the measurements that you've made, and then the details of each measurement. So here's the overview of all of the data created, and then per measurement, here's the cross section. Here's the stockpile with the material name and weight in tons, value in pound sterling. An area created as well, and then all the way at the bottom will be the material total. So if you have multiple stockpiles with topsoil or some specific grade of material, those will be totaled up and aggregated down here at the bottom.
A standard layout, or can they be adapted to have different things in there?
You mean in this PDF? Sorry, I just lost you there.
I think that's what he means, yeah. I think can that be modified, or is it standard in that format?
Yeah, well, you can modify the contents of the report here to exclude the details of the measurements, for example. If you care to just show less, you can also just share a single measurement, right? So if I'm only interested in sharing this, I can just share this measurement with someone, and they will have access to this and not the rest. If that makes sense.
So if you share that measurement, Jan, does that give them access to the portal to see it, not a report?
It gives them access to a session where they can view that measurement and not other measurements. So they can see that measurement in the context of the site, which would make it a lot more easy. If they don't have any further permissions, they will not be able to create their own measurements and such.
Question for potentially yourself, Rob, and also yourself, Jan. How many error points do you use, or do you need to use per site, and your experience of that, Rob?
Well, we've got two, so we generally put both those down. Yeah, and that works fine. And then we do on some of the bigger sites put some just ground control points in, just to check back to, just give you a bit more redundancy.
So on a site of that size, Rob, you could get away with one if you needed to, couldn't you?
Oh yes, yeah, you can. Yes, yeah.
Yep, yeah. We the workflow works very well with one arrow point. Some people, especially when they start out, want to have that validation as well, and they use additional arrow points. It's really easy to switch them from a ground control point to a checkpoint in our workflow. The ground control is for tying in the model in the real world. The checkpoint is to independently check how good the model is that comes out, right? So it's good practice to have a few extra and just check what's the what's the difference between that that separate point and the model that was produced, the terrain model that was produced. So you can use more and switch them to checkpoints if that's what you want to do. So this is the PPK workflow that Rob is referring to. That works with a single arrow point and the Phantom 4 RTK. It's probably the easiest workflow, but if you have a different drone, you can work with that as well. If you don't use an RTK drone, you would use 10 arrow points, spread them across the perimeter of your site, put a couple in the middle, and work like that. That's the alternative. Takes a bit more time and a few extra arrow points, but perfectly doable if you already have a drone of your preference.
I think it's worth pointing out, Jan, just how easy those arrow points are to use. The first time I ever saw one, I just literally took it out of the box. The instructions are there. You download the app. They are so simple to use. There's nothing complicated about it at all.
Yeah, that's why we built them in the first place back in 2016. Many people were trying to get accurate data from drones, and really what they struggled with most was ground control. And so yeah, so, a self-surveying ground control point really took a lot of the opportunity for human error out of the loop, and yeah, it's allowed basically anyone to do accurate surveys with drones since. Yeah.
Just on that, we had another question. How do I tie in my error point? Is it with a RTK total station, and how do I physically do that on site?
Yeah, you don't need to do that. So what happens with the arrow points log their own GPS, right? L1 and L2, and you upload that data to our server. We have a course corrections subscription for the UK, and so we will correct that with local base stations for you, and so the high accuracy comes back to you in the Propeller portal. And so if you have Trimble Stratus as well for doing your photogrammetry after doing your ground control, then it's just a simple click to select that ground control from your arrow points and use that in the photogrammetry processing.
Yeah, and do you want to quickly click on the arrow points tab just to show that they log the GPS data, and you can see where they've been used?
For sure. So here's the Kelston Sparkes arrow points, and yeah, here's the PPK flights done with those arrow points on those sites.
So you can log multiple flights before you process the data, and you can just pick which flight it was you were using the arrow points on.
That's right. And so the timestamp on the photos will easily match up with the timestamp on the arrow points, right? So there's not much room for error there. Yeah.
It just means you can do a flight in the morning, a flight in the afternoon, and you can distinguish between the two. You don't have to upload the first lot of data before taking the second lot.
That's right. Yeah, all of that stuff is logged. So yeah, it's all at your fingertips.
Another one, when we're surveying over grass surfaces, how do we get meaningful data for earthworks? So obviously long grass, you touched upon it in the presentation. How do we get over that inconsistency or potential inconsistency with the surfaces?
Yeah, great question. So when customers fly original grounds, this is a typical thing, right? The grass is still there, and they need to somehow make work the terrain model a bit. So with photogrammetry, you'll always only see the top of the surface, right? And wherever there's that will be really good for muck, for just bare terrain, but for grass and vegetation, this will be more difficult. So what you do is you just fly your original ground like you would any other survey. You look at the data and you do a few local cleanups, and the cleanups again are really easy. It's basically the same as clicking a stockpile, for example. So if you have a grass terrain, you can click around that and create an interpolated plane through the grass, basically cutting the grass down to the ground. Alternatively, you can do a a laser scan that goes through the vegetation, or just another traditional survey with your GPS rover, and add that to the Stratus portal. So you can bring in any type of survey, not only drone surveys, into the portal and measure to it, right? So there's different options for dealing with that, and definitely a common thing for our customers to do.
One final question that's currently in there at the moment is, what sort of drone can I use? Can I use my own drone? Do I have to buy it off Scitech and Propeller? How does that all work? So a little bit more explanation on that, please.
Yeah. So the platform can work with any drone that has a good enough camera, right? So your $25 drone that you got for Christmas is not good enough for creating the data we need here. Scitech stocks the Phantom 4 RTK that we discussed before. That's probably the go-to drone that we see most customers in the market use. Works really well for smaller sites, can be used well for larger sites as well. But if you choose to work with a different drone, we can work with that. I can shoot out a link with recommended drones that anyone can check. Maybe that's a good follow-up. Anyone with that specific question, feel free to reach out and I can share that link. Happy to answer any further questions later on. So yeah, well, with that, let's wrap it up here. Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Rob, for being with us today.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And yeah, any questions, feel free to shoot us a quick email, and happy to take the conversation further. Can always reach out to your local dealer. Carl Parsons is your go-to man at Scitech UK and Ireland for more information on this product. And thanks for your time, everyone. Have a great day over in the UK.